There at Pelagia lay the main fleet of Umbar, 50 great ships and smaller vessels beyond count. Many of those that we pursued had reached the havens before us. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Line Unbroken, my progression-style playthrough series of the Lord of the Rings living card game. I am playing the second quest from the Flame of the West Saga expansion in campaign mode, the Siege of Gondor. So for my setup, Eowyn reduces my threat by 3, but I have +1 for a fallen hero earlier in the campaign, which also applies to this deck. Campaign pool, Overcome by Grief, is over here. Aragorn, of course, is controlled by the first player, as is the Army of the Dead from the last quest. I'm just going to stick the Corsair fleet to the left of the staging area rather than in it. There are no scenario-specific rules, just we're not allowed to use Frodo. Need to attach some boons. Hoton Bombadil is in the first player's hand. Valiant Warrior on Aragorn. Beyond All Hope on Gandalf. These are not attached to any specific hero. I tend to just stick them on heroes who don't otherwise tend to get attachments, so they don't kind of get in the way. Or get lost among other attachments. Visibility on this deck. Okay. So I was contemplating taking a mulligan on this, but it is a decent start. I've got card draw, I've got the wizard pipe, strength of will can be significant, and healing is also potentially significant, so I think I'm going to keep it. First player may raise each player's threat by 1 to search his deck for Anduril and add it to his hand. So on the one hand, I probably wouldn't get that much use out of Anduril right off the bat, but on the other hand, it does thin out my deck just by 1 additional card. And maybe I do play Anduril early, just to switch on Aragorn's ability. The case could certainly be made for it. I think I will do it. I don't need the copy of Bilbo that's on top of my deck because I have a wizard pipe in hand. So, Anduril. There we go. And shuffle, and I find another strength of will. Okay. So, set up on the quest card. Add the Corsair fleet, Corsair side face up, and Great Corsair ship to the staging area. Each player searches the encounter deck for a ship location and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. So, the Corsair fleet. Forced at the beginning of the staging step, place 1 resource on this objective. Then each player must choose, either reveal an encounter card or assign X damage among characters he controls. X is the number of resources here. And the Great Corsair ship. X threat, X is the number of resources on the Corsair fleet. The players cannot travel here unless there are at least 3 ship locations in the victory display. Travel. Each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a Corsair enemy and adds it to the staging area. One of these enemies must be Corsair captain, if able. So I need to also grab 2 ship locations. I will take a Corsair Droman and another Corsair Droman because they are the lower threat options. Shuffle the encounter deck and flip this over. But the Haradrim, being now driven to the brink, turned at bay, and they were fierce in despair, and they laughed when they looked on us, for they were a great army still. Each ship location in the staging area is immune to player card effects. The players cannot defeat this stage while Great Corsair ship is in play. When this stage is defeated, the players win the game. Ill Fate is supposed to be shuffled into the encounter deck. For some reason, sometimes you stick cards in the setup deck, they just stay there until you flip over a quest card and then they jump onto the table. I don't understand why this happens, but it does. Control N, begin the game. Okay, during the resource phase, I will play Deep Knowledge from the top of my deck. Doomed 2, and each deck draws 2 cards. And I do have another Deep Knowledge. Yeah, I guess I should be reasonably okay to start engaging enemies pretty early, in principle. So I certainly could play this right off the bat. But, I mean, I already have a pretty good selection of cards available here, so I might leave it for the moment. Let's see, the Planter of Orthanc is useful just because it is a zero-cost artifact, which activates Aragorn's passive ability here. Wizard Pipe obviously is good. It's probably a good idea to save a resource for a test of will. So, and Warden of Healing could be significant. The Corsair Droman, yes, while it's the active location, each Corsair enemy gains Archery 1. And travel is to go find a Corsair enemy and add it to the staging area. Discard cards until the Corsair enemy is discarded and add it to the staging area. Yes, okay, so I think I play the Wizard Pipe first of all. And exhaust it to... How's this looking? Yeah, okay, yes. So, exhaust it to put the Warden of Healing on top of my deck. Play the Planter of Orthanc onto Aragorn. And pay 2 for the Warden. Over here... Well, obviously I'm going to play Gather Information, and I will be questing there. And then I think it's a good idea to get my shields up. Golden Shield, Gondorian Shield, and pay 1 for the Riddermark's Finest. So... this is technically at the beginning of the staging step, but it's much easier to keep track of it if you do it at the beginning of the quest phase, and it's entirely predictable. So, add 1 resource, which means the Great Corsair ship is now 1 threat, so there will be 5 threat in the staging area, and yes, each player must choose either reveal an encounter card or assign X damage among characters. So obviously I'm going to assign the damage 1. And since I have a Warden of Healing in play, it does actually make sense to assign it to a character who can be healed rather than the Army of the Dead. However, the 8 hit points on the Army of the Dead does come in rather handy for the purposes of taking this damage. I'll put it on Pippin. I'm pretty sure there's no direct damage treacheries in this quest. So, 5 threat. I'm questing to gather information. Aragorn does not exhaust a quest. I do have the Army of the Dead to potentially kill enemies for me. So I don't have to be too cautious about holding characters back. So, well, obviously 4, 6, 8, 12, 14. I think I'll go with that. Request for 14 and reveal. Raiding the coasts. Each player must choose either add 3 to the total threat in the staging area until the end of the phase, or discard the highest cost attachment you control. That is a lot of threat to add. The highest cost attachments I control are actually pretty cheap. But it's not like I have replacements ready to go. If I add the threat, then I will definitely not be exploring Gather Information. That's not necessarily the end of the world, though. So let's just add the threat. And Corsair Captain, great. Okay, fortunately I have some shenanigans I can pull. Now, the Corsair Captain cannot be optionally engaged. If the active location is a ship, Corsair Captain gets minus 30 engagement costs and gains forced. When Corsair Captain engages you, it makes an immediate attack. Okay, so I actually make no progress. But this is fine. Now, Corsair Droman. Travel cost is to shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a Corsair enemy is discarded. Add the discarded enemy to the staging area. So, let's do that. Of course, you don't want to hang around on this quest. The longer you take to complete this quest, the longer it will take in the next quest at Pelennor Fields for Aragorn to actually turn up. And you cannot complete the quest without exploring the Great Corsair Ship. You cannot explore the Great Corsair Ship without exploring at least 3 other ships, so you want to travel to them immediately. Okay, Haradrim Pirate. When he engages, you deal 1 damage to a character you control, 2 damage instead of the active location is ship, which of course it is. However, I will now play Strength of Will. Response. After you travel to a location, exhaust a spirit character to place 2 progress tokens on that location. Important point here, each ship location in the staging area is immune to player card effects. As soon as it becomes the active location, it is no longer immune to player card effects. So I can use Strength of Will, exhausting the Riddermark's Finest, to place 2 progress here, adding it to the victory display. So the active location is not a ship, which means the Corsair Captain does not have minus 30 engagement cost, so in fact I can't engage him, and the Haradrim Pirate will only deal 1 damage when he engages, not 2. Also, each Corsair enemy does not have Archery 1. So, I need to deal with this Haradrim Pirate, so I will engage him here. And I guess I will assign the 1 damage for engaging him to Aragorn. Baragond will defend. If this attack damages a character, it does not. I lower my threat by 1 for Baragond's ability. Use the Warden of Healing to heal Pippin and Aragorn. The Army of the Dead can kill the Haradrim Pirate by itself. In the refresh phase, both the Army of the Dead and Aragorn move to the other side of the table. Control N. Alright. Let's see. Well, I have no need for another Gondorian shield. I could play... Oh, yes, I could play the Westfold Outrider, which would allow me to get the Corsair Captain out of the staging area. That is a very good idea. Over here, I do have a Test of Will in my hand, so I want to save a resource for that, but I could use the Wizard Pipe to put it on top of my deck so I could pay for it with Gandalf and thus still be able to play Arwen. Or I could use the Wizard Pipe to put Arwen on top of my deck so Gandalf can help pay for her and I still have the resource for the Test of Will. Sword that was broken would be very nice to get into play. It is a bit on the expensive side. Yeah, okay. I don't have a Test of Will over here. Yeah, so I suppose if I want to have a decent chance of getting Sword That Was Broken into play, then I want to save resources on Gandalf if possible. So I will play Arwen from my hand. I'm going to move this deck a bit further to the right. And then I will Wizard Pipe the Test of Will onto the top of my deck, because now this means if I don't play the Test of Will, I will still have that resource on Gandalf and be that much closer to being able to afford the Sword That Was Broken. So, questing, there will be 2, 4, 7 threat in the staging area. Questing to gather information, again, of course. Questing for 2, 6, 8. I don't have another Strength of Will, but I do have Ride to Ruin and the Riddermark's Finest own ability, so I do want to keep it upright. Yes, so 2, 6, 8. It takes 9 to kill this, so yeah, that's fine. Right, yes, 2, 6, 8. 10, 14. So, since I have Strength of Will here, an argument could be made for keeping Arwen ready to trigger it instead of questing with her. Of course, it's also possible I could actually trigger it with Beregond if I wanted. So I think I have the extra willpower, especially since I also have the options of Ride to Ruin and Riddermark's Finest. So, questing for 16 against 7, and I need to assign 2 damage for each deck. So 1, 2, and 1, 2. And we reveal Raiding the Coasts. Okay, so once again, I could add a bunch of threat, or I could discard the highest cost attachment I control. Okay, so I have drawn a spare Gondorian shield. So maybe I could just add 3 threat and discard the Gondorian shield. I will do that. And Umbar War Galley. While it is the active location, each Corsair enemy gets minus 10 engagement cost. Okay, that adds 3 more threat. And I now have the 3 ship locations I need to travel to the Great Corsair ship. One of them is already explored in the victory display. I make 3 progress on gather information. I have not used my Test of Will. If I wanted to explore gather information, I could discard the Westfold Outrider right now to engage the Corsair Captain. Thus taking the threat out of the staging area. On the other hand, I have been thinking the really safe option is to not to save that until after resolving enemy attacks. So I think I'm just going to do that. Take the safe option. It's not actually that urgent that I dig extra cards out of my deck. So the question now is just which of these ships do I want to explore? I guess, yeah, I will go to the Corsair Droman and I will actually use Strength of Will, exhausting Beregond to explore it. I do, of course, have to resolve the travel cost first. So, shuffle the discard pile back into the encounter deck and discard until I find an enemy. Umbar pirate crew. Well, yeah, I'm getting all the really tough ones. Fortunately, I don't have to engage it. And strength of will places the 2 progress. The ship goes to the victory display. So, do I want to engage this Umbar pirate crew? I think no. So, I will not be engaging anything in the encounter phase. In the combat phase, I resolve enemy attacks. There aren't any. Now I discard the Westfold Outrider to engage the Corsair Captain. He has missed his opportunity to attack, but I can attack him for 10, 13, 14 and kill him. I can exhaust the Warden of Healing to heal up Merry and Pippin and Control N. Okay. So, let's see. Can't quite afford Sword that was broken. I could use Deep Knowledge to dig further down my deck. I suppose, yeah, the enemies I really can't... The enemies I would really have any trouble dealing with are the Umbar pirate crew and the Corsair Captain, both of which have higher engagement costs. So, in the resource phase, I will play this Deep Knowledge. Okay. Alright. And now we reach the planning phase, so it is possible for me to play from the top of my deck again. Let's see. Let's play this Warden of Healing. Gandalf's Staff onto Gandalf, which I will exhaust to add a resource to Gandalf. I'll exhaust the Wizard Pipe to put Sword that was broken on top of my deck, and then attach it to Aragorn. Still have a Spirit resource for a Test of Will. This is fine. Since we are getting on pretty well, I will need to debate to what extent it is actually worth doing this gather information, or if I should just gun for the main quest at this point. I think it may be better to just go for the main quest. Now let's see, Shadowfax would certainly be useful. Gambling could be a good idea as well. So, Grimbold. Oh, I want to replace Baragon's shield, of course. So, yeah, okay, I will just play Grimbold. And now, okay, so we will be adding a third resource, so there will be 3, 6, 9 threat in the staging area. I'm probably going to just go to the main quest. And of course I'm assigning the damage. Maybe time to start damaging the Army of the Dead. Let's see over here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, right. I forgot about Shadowfax as an option. Next round, maybe. Yeah, let's maybe still save the Army of the Dead. Just spread out this damage. And okay, questing. 3, 8, 11, 14, 18, 20, 22. Yeah, let's just go for the main quest. Doomed one. Each ship location in the staging area gets +1 threat until the end of the phase. If there are no non-unique ship locations in the staging area, there are. Okay, so that's just +2 threat until the end of the phase. That's really not a huge problem. And driven to the brink, peril, so I can't cancel this. Either immediately end the quest phase without resolving the quest, or assign X damage among questing characters you control. X is the number of resources on the Corsair fleet. Ah, that would force me to kill a hero. Okay. I will immediately end the quest phase without resolving the quest. Okay. So let's travel to the Umbar War Galley. Shuffling the discard pile back into the encounter deck and discarding until I find an enemy. Okay. And of course, while Umbar War Galley is the active location, each Corsair enemy gets -10 engagement cost. Now, I could get rid of it immediately in a couple of different ways. Just debating whether it might be better to save some of those for the Great Corsair ship instead. As it is, I will still... should still be able to at least kill the Umbar pirate crew. Yeah, I think I want to actually save some of these powerful effects. Okay. So, engage the Umbar pirate crew, exhausting the Warden of Healing, and engage the Corsair of Umbar. Baragond defends against the pirate crew, takes no damage, and I lower my threat by 1. Of course, because they have -10 engagement cost, I didn't get to trigger Pippin. Defend this guy. Exhaust a character you control. Okay, and of course I can attack for 10. Take out the unbound pirate crew. And then heal Aragorn and Gandalf. Discard this shadow card. These two across the table. Control N. So, okay, faint could be useful, but also could be irrelevant. Let's play Shadowfax onto Gandalf and pay 2 with the discount for gambling. Unfortunately, I cannot play the Banner of Elendil. I could play Anduril. I could play the Ring of Barahir. That's not that significant. I could play Deep Knowledge in the hopes of finding a good harvest, which I'm pretty sure is in this deck, and that would then allow me to play the banner. That would make a lot of sense if none of the other options are particularly appealing. I do have a good harvest in this deck. So sure, Deep Knowledge. No good harvest. Found Steward of Gondor, which I also can't play. I want to save a resource for Test of Will. So, I think I may just not play anything. Oh, I do have Gandalf's Staff available. That is a thing. Which means I could play Steward of Gondor. Or the Athelian Tracker. Yeah, okay, so if I play Steward onto Aragorn, and then leave it at that. We are going to have 4 threat in the staging area, and each deck needs to assign 4 damage among characters it controls. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think now is the time for the Army of the Dead. Mostly, I can put 1 on gambling. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And we quest for 4, 6, 8, 11, 16, 19, 22. I could send Theoden. Get it up to 25. But realistically, I don't think... So in theory, if I could quest hard enough, if I could get the 20 progress on this quest stage all in one go, then I have the means to explore the Great Corsair ship as soon as I travel to it. Which means I wouldn't even have to bother with the combat phase. However, I don't know that I have enough willpower. Oh, actually, I mean, if I really want to go for this, then the Army of the Dead is an extra 4 willpower. So, yeah, that would be an extra 7 on top of the 22, so 29. I can potentially add some more to the Umbar War Galley. Actually, in light of this, I'm not going to bother playing Steward of Gondor. I'll still have Gandalf's stuff available for possible emergencies. Okay. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay. Fellfolk of Umbar. Peril. So I can't cancel it. Either return each Corsair enemy engaged with you to the staging area, or discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a Corsair enemy is discarded and put that enemy into play engaged with you. I will discard the cards, because it doesn't add threat to the staging area. When it engages you, deal 1 damage to a character you control, 2 damage instead. If the active location is a ship, I will deal the damage to the Army of the Dead. And the second reveal of staging is an Umbar War Galley. So I'm making 22 progress, which is not quite enough, but I can exhaust and discard the Riddermark's finest, exhausting gambling to return it to my hand, placing 2 progress on the Umbar War Galley. Now I make 22 progress, which means I end up with 21 on the main quest. This goes to the victory display. There are now 3 ship locations in the victory display, which means I can travel to the Great Corsair ship. 2 Corsair Drummonds, 1 Umbar War Galley. So, I will travel to the Great Corsair ship. So, the travel cost. Each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a Corsair enemy and adds it to the staging area. One of those enemies must be Corsair Captain if able. Oh, actually, hang on. Before I do this, I heal, and I'm going to use Gandalf's staff to add a resource to Pippin so I can ready one of these Wardens. So I get the use of 3 Wardens of healing. So 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. Then I travel. And I have to go grab a Corsair Captain and another enemy. Sure, let's grab 2 Corsair Captains because it doesn't actually matter. Because now I've just travelled to a location. I can trigger Strength of Will. For that matter, I can actually trigger this Curious Brandybuck. I can put the Curious Brandybuck into play and then trigger Strength of Will, exhausting the Curious Brandybuck. This is why they're in the deck. Sorry, I did that wrong. Strength of Will does not go to the bottom of the deck. I was thinking about the Curious Brandybuck. This places 2 progress on the Great Corsair ship, which is not immune to player card effects anymore because I've just travelled to it. And then over here, I also pay 1 for Ride to Ruin. Discard a Rohan ally to choose a location, place 3 progress tokens on that location. Let's discard gambling. Place 3 progress on the Great Corsair ship, which goes to the victory display. The Great Corsair ship is not in play, and I have more than enough progress on the quest stage, so I have won the game. On the 4th round, only 4 resource tokens on the Corsair fleet. Generally, obviously, the quickest you can do it under normal circumstances is with 5 resources, because the first round there is no active location. So you have to explore regular ship locations on rounds 2, 3 and 4, and the Great Corsair ship on round 5. In my case, obviously I have been using location control to explore locations on the same round I travelled to them. It still worked out the same until this round, where, being that I was able to do it to the Great Corsair ship, I was able to finish on round 4. It is theoretically possible, with some additional shenanigans, I think, to actually complete this quest on round 3, but I'm not sure if it's something... I don't know. I don't want to say absolutely not, but I think it's probably not something that you can do consistently, as the Curious Brandybuck goes to the bottom of my deck. So this is about as good as I think one could consistently do at this quest, so I'm very pleased. I suppose if I wanted I could have used Old Bogey Stories for the extra victory point, but it really doesn't matter. There's nothing I really could have done with that extra card. And actually, no, I couldn't, because I needed to play Ride to Ruin. And as soon as I've done so, I win the game and have no opportunity to trigger Old Bogey Stories. So, yeah, a very nice score of 95. A very successful play of that quest. Resolution. Count the number of resources on the Corsair fleet and record that number in the notes section of the quest log. Remove Army of the Dead from the campaign pool. So the number I note is 4, and the Army of the Dead is removed from the campaign pool. It did its job of killing enemies for me and soaking up damage and questing on the final round. Yeah. I suppose, in retrospect, that was fairly risky. But it did actually pay off. If I'd gotten 2 cards which actually added threat to the staging area, it would have been more of an... Then I probably would have added too much threat to the staging area to actually complete the quest. Although, of course, it should be noted that under those conditions I could have chosen not to travel to the Great Corsair ship, so I could have done the same thing the following round and still not had to deal with these additional enemies. Anyway, that was very successful. On to the Battle of Pelennor Fields. If you enjoyed this, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.